What's going on, you guys? EP09 back here with another video, and I have a few updates for you guys which definitely shed some light on why some competitors placed where they did at this year's Olympia. I've got some info on Krizo, Andrew Jack, William Bonac, and Dennis James speaks further on Big Ramy when he was on the Muscle and Fitness podcast. I'll get into some more of the info that he offers on Ramy a little bit later in this video, but yeah, to start off here, we're going to start off with Michal Krizo. He uploaded a quick shorts video on his YouTube where he was asked if he ever does cardio, and Krizo actually says that he does zero cardio. Zero cardio! Guys, there's definitely a lot to unpack here, but let me run the clip for you right quick.
Robisz cardio?
Nie.
Wobec nigdy?
Pozovať ich čašie aj ako kardio, aj ako cvičenie, ako všetko.
So this could explain a lot of things, you guys. First off, to get in this kind of shape with zero cardio, this is probably the best example of proving Greg Doucette right. You know, calories in, calories out. You don't need cardio to get shredded anyway. But this definitely could be a factor as to why he looks like he's breathing so hard on stage when he is doing his posing. I mean, I'm sure a lot of bodybuilders would agree that posing is very hard work and maybe even more taxing on the body than doing cardio in some ways. But just because for him posing is harder, he must know, and his coach must know too, I'm sure. Doing regular cardio and strengthening your cardiovascular system would improve your posing. Granted, I think he was a bit better with his posing at this Olympia, but there's just no way that cardio moving forward would be a downside for Michal Krizo. He could burn more calories and potentially eat more food, you know, as well. But I mean, at the end of the day, I think this is going to be a key factor moving forward. The key for Michal Krizo to move up in placings at the Olympia is for Michal Krizo to start doing cardio. He doesn't need to get any bigger, except for his back needs to come up, but he needs to be able to present himself better on that stage. Yes, posing practice will make you better at posing when it comes to holding the pose for longer periods of time and not becoming as fatigued on stage, but cardio will exponentially aid in improving his posing and his physique. I'm sure of it. Krizo also posted this picture of himself with a cigarette or something. I don't believe he's a regular smoker, but I honestly have no idea. Anyway, I used a Google translator and roughly translated this text to, it says, "When us Las Vegas so from all as it should be." So you guys take that for what it might be. You know, I've heard of bodybuilders that would smoke because it allegedly sped up metabolism, you know. Even if that is true, I just don't think it's a good practice to add in smoking as part of a prep or whatever. Anyway, you guys, Krizo needs to start doing cardio and start taking that cardio seriously if he wants to move up at the Olympia. That's my thoughts on it. Maybe fly into the States a little bit earlier too, you know. He didn't arrive until within a week of the show or so, I'm pretty sure. You know, the same thing could be said about William Bonac, actually. William Bonac did not come in where he wanted to, and definitely not where we all expected him to at this year's Olympia. The predictions were tough to call this year, but I think it's fair to say that Bonac was placed in a lot of people's top 6 predictions. William Bonac recently commented on one of his posts after the Olympia, and it was actually a response to a comment from Even Bodybuilding. You guys can go check him out on YouTube as well. It's a great channel. And when I went back to try and find that comment again on William's Instagram, I couldn't find it. Maybe he deleted it or something. But regardless, I do have it here. And he says that there was potential for him holding water before the show and maybe pushing it too hard in the gym or lack of sleep. I think it was due to his flight being so close to the show. Now, I actually made a video only days before the Olympia showing how William Bonac was still in the Netherlands on December 11th, and the Olympia started on December 15th. And I said in that video that being this close to the show and having to fly could affect his physique. So it turns out I was right on this one. He was still in the Netherlands because the William Bonac Classic was happening and he wanted to speak at his own show, which he absolutely would be expected to speak there. But man, William, move that show to sometime not during your Olympia prep next time, man. Or much earlier in the prep at the very least. I'm not happy about being right about his travel plans affecting his physique, but this is definitely a lesson for William and his coach Chad Nichols for next year. William placed outside of the top 5, he was in 9th place, so he's going to have to re-qualify for next year's Olympia. Now we've got some info on another guy that's going to have to re-qualify for next year's Olympia, Andrew Jack. His coach, George Farah, he was on the Muscle and Fitness podcast recently too with Dennis James, and George gives us some further details on Andrew Jack at 4 weeks out leading up to the competition. Check it out.
We expect
honestly,
hold on one
a
second.
lot of people don't know what goes behind the scene. 4 weeks ago, Andrew wasn't going to do the show.
Okay.
You know, we were supposed to go to Pittsburgh, do called me and goes, George, I don't want to go and let him see me like this. You know, I don't know what happened, you know, because of his asthma and stuff. But now I kept on him. I said, listen, man, you're not that bad. Like, you know, it was some type of bullshit, you know, back home or whatever. But the thing is, in this next 4 weeks, man, he looked amazing. And then all of a sudden he got freaking bronchitis. The guy was on the stage. Probably that's why I'm coughing. He had 102 degrees fever. What the hell are you going to do with that? Mm. And he still represent and look good. And he's coughing, stuff and all this, you know. So to me, it's a win.
So there you go, you guys. Andrew Jack talked a big game at the press conference, but leading up to the show, apparently he had some things going on at home, presumably, you know, home overseas. So maybe his mind wasn't quite right because of that, and battling with bronchitis and being on antibiotics on top of that seemed to affect his overall conditioning, and therefore, I would say affected his placing at this year's Olympia. I also made a video leading up to the Olympia about how Andrew Jack was on antibiotics during his prep for this year's Olympia, only weeks out, and how that might affect his placing. He was interviewed by Roddy Coleman leading up to the Olympia, and he mentioned the antibiotics, so I guess I was right about this one too. That's why he didn't want Jose Raymond to see him leading up to the show, I would say.
Yeah, I asked his girlfriend if I could go in with him posing afterwards.
Right.
And then she, I'm like, I won't film anything, I just want to see it. And she asked him, and he was like, no, I'm not posing for anyone.
Again, I wish I wasn't right about this, because although you never see anybody show up at 100% at the show, you know, not everyone always shows up at 100%. Not looking as well as you could due to an illness like that, it just kind of sucks, you guys. You know, it just kind of sucks. That really is something primarily that's out of your control. You can't live in a bubble leading up to the show. You know, you have to go train at a gym. You have to get in your food. You have to be around people. I really did want to see everyone come in at their best, including Andrew Jack, but I think that being past the illness that he had and him being at 100% mentally and physically this upcoming year will give him the best chances of landing him that top spot at the Olympia. Everyone is saying that he has the potential to win someday, and I think he does as well. So I'm sure it'll be a great competition season to watch this year with so many great guys that still need to qualify for next year's Olympia, you know, including Andrew Jack. So I'm sure Andrew Jack is going to be at the forefront of the conversation. So to finish off this video, you guys, Dennis James also spoke further to what happened with Big Ramy, and to be honest with you guys, he really doesn't offer any further explanation to what he's already put out there on social media. He doesn't take any accountability, still at this point. It's kind of baffling, honestly, the things that he says here. So look, here's a few things that Dennis James had to say about Big Ramy.
And I'm going to have to say that Friday after the expo, I went over there just to see him, you know, and he wanted me to look at him. I looked at him, and, you know, I couldn't tell Ramy, but I thought he was flat.
Yeah.
When we're talking a couple of hours before prejudging, he just looked flat to me, and especially in his legs. And I called Chat and told him that's what I think, that's what I saw, you know, and ultimately, you know, I don't make any decisions, but Chat said, you know, he was just looking at him before, and he said everything was fine.
So again, you guys, in my latest update video, I said how I hope the people around Ramy can be honest with him at this year's upcoming competition season and what Ramy can achieve realistically, but it appears that there's at least one person around him that was not being honest with him only hours before Ramy was supposed to go on stage. Dennis James clearly says here that he could not tell Ramy how he looked. He had to call Chad Nichols, so what, Chad could break the bad news? And this was only a few hours out of the, prejudging? Dennis definitely had some more insight than just informing Chad Nichols on how he thought Ramy looked. I mean, Dennis James is a multiple-time Olympia competitor himself. Ramy wanted him to look at him before the show. And a guy like that, I would too. But I would want him to be honest with me about how I looked, you guys. You know, this is not good for Big Ramy. What else are they telling him or not telling him? Anyway, Dennis James had more to say about this. Check it out.
I tell you the truth. I don't really give a what nobody says. At the end of the day, there's no explanation. I guess things didn't go as planned, and that's exactly what happened, because that's Chat's guy.
Yeah.
He did all, I don't have any influence on that. I don't get involved. I don't even ask questions, to be perfectly honest. Let's talk about Ramy.
Let's talk about it.
Can the problems be fixed?
So, at first I was kind of confused when Dennis James asked George, Chris, and Milos if Ramy's problems are fixable because, you would think that question would be more appropriate for any of those three guys to ask Dennis more than anything. Dennis just seems to be treading lightly around this subject, except for being adamant that he has no idea what happened leading up to Big Ramy taking the stage. I mean, he must know something. He says he didn't offer any advice to Chad, but he said he did speak with Chad, directly regarding Ramy at various times throughout Ramy's prep when he arrived in the US, including, like I said, a few hours before prejudging. I've also heard him say that he was helping Ramy as a friend leading up to the Olympia, not as a coach or as a trainer, but as a friend. Well, I tell you guys, I would want my friend to be honest with me about how I looked before I stepped out on the biggest stage in the world for my chosen profession. Being honest may have allowed for more honest conversation and potentially the ability to hide further flaws, make bigger changes to increase placings. I don't know, you guys, but Big Ramy needs honesty in his camp. That's it. We're still waiting for Chad Nichols to say something about Big Ramy or, any of his competitors from that matter. I don't know if he's spoken about anybody yet. It's been over a week with still no word, but as soon as I hear anything, I'll let you guys know. Anyway, that's it for me in this video, you guys. Leave me a comment down below on what you guys think about some of this stuff. Should Krizo start doing cardio, or does he not need it? Do you think William Bonac will arrive in the US closer to the show next year? Will Big Ramy ever get some honesty out of the people around him? Thanks for tuning in, you guys. Be sure to like and subscribe.